He thought the barn was empty. The three women standing in his doorway had other plans. Jared hadn't spoken to another soul in 9 days. The farm demanded everything. Dawn chores, fence repairs, feeding routines that left his hands raw and his mind too tired to think. He liked it that way. Silence meant safety. Silence meant no one asking questions he couldn't answer. The barn door hung crooked on its hinges. He'd been meaning to fix it for weeks, but tonight he just wanted to check the horses and get back to the house. The sun was dropping fast, painting the fields gold and red. He pushed the door open. 3 women stood in the center of the barn. Tall, impossibly tall. The smallest of them had to be 6 to 5, maybe more. They wore simple dresses, dusty and road-worn, their hair loose around their shoulders. Blonde, brunette, red. They didn't move. Jared's hand froze on the door. His throat went dry. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. The blonde one smiled. Slow, knowing. You must be Jared. Her voice was low, smooth as honey poured over gravel. He took a step back. The door creaked behind him. How do you know my name? The brunette tilted her head. Her eyes tracked him like a hawk, watching prey. We've been looking for you. Jared's pulse hammered in his ears. Looking for me? Why? The redhead stepped forward. Her boots were silent on the hay-strewn floor. She moved like water, unhurried, certain. Because you're alone. Because you need help. Because we need a place to stay. His mind raced. Strangers didn't just appear. Not out here. The nearest town was 12 miles away, and no one came down this road unless they were lost or desperate. I don't need help. The blonde laughed. Soft, almost kind. Your fence is falling apart. Your barn door's hanging by a thread. You're running this place by yourself, and it's killing you. Jared's jaw tightened. She wasn't wrong. But that didn't mean he could trust them. I manage fine. The brunette moved closer. She was the tallest, and when she stood in front of him, he had to tilt his head back to meet her eyes. She smelled like rain and smoke and something he couldn't name. We'll work. We'll earn our keep. All we need is a roof and a meal. He wanted to say no. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around and walk away. But the truth was, he was drowning. The farm was too much for one man, and winter was coming. For how long? As long as you need us. They didn't wait for permission. By the time Jared made it back from the barn, they'd already claimed the old bunkhouse behind the main building. He stood in the doorway, watching them move with practiced efficiency. The brunette swept the floor. The redhead hung blankets over the windows. The blonde unpacked bags he hadn't seen them carrying. You didn't ask. The blonde looked up, unbothered. You were going to say yes. He hated that she was right. Dinner was quiet. They sat around his small kitchen table, and he realized how empty it had felt for so long. The brunette ate quickly, methodically. The redhead picked at her food, her eyes always watching. The blonde seemed content to observe, a faint smile playing at her lips. What are your names? The blonde set down her fork. I'm Alara. That's Bryn. That's Kenna. Bryn, the brunette, met his gaze with something fierce. Kenna, the redhead, just nodded. Where are you from? Alara's smile faded. Nowhere that matters anymore. The silence that followed was heavy. Jared didn't press. He knew what it felt like to run from something you couldn't name. After dinner, they excused themselves. He watched them walk back to the barn, their silhouettes tall and strange against the twilight. He locked the door that night. For the first time in months. They were already in the fields when he woke. Jared stumbled out of bed, disoriented. The sun was barely up, and through the window he could see them moving through the rows. Bryn carried fence posts like they weighed nothing. Kenna worked a post-hole digger with brutal efficiency. Alara walked the perimeter, marking spots with a piece of chalk. He grabbed his boots and hurried outside. You don't have to. Bryn looked over her shoulder. We told you. We work. By noon, they'd repaired a 1/4 mile of fence. Jared stood in the shade of the barn, watching in disbelief. They moved in sync, wordless, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Alara brought him water. Her hand brushed his when she passed the jar. You're staring. I'm just… Because we're women? Or because we're tall? His face flushed. Because I didn't expect anyone to help. Her smile returned, softer this time. Get used to it. That evening, Jared found Kenna in the barn. She was brushing down one of the horses, her movements gentle despite her size. The animal stood calm, ears forward, trusting. She likes you. Kenna didn't look up. Animals always do. He leaned against the stall door, watching her work. Can I ask you something? Her hands stilled, then resumed. Depends. Why are you really here? She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally turned, her eyes were hard. We needed somewhere safe, somewhere no one would look. Safe from what? Kenna stepped closer. Her shadow swallowed him, from the kind of men who think they own things that don't belong to them. His breath caught. There was a story there, something dark and jagged. You're safe here? Her expression didn't change. We'll see. Days turned into a week. The farm transformed. Fences stood straight. The barn door hung true. The fields looked tended for the first time in years. Jared found himself working alongside them, matching their pace, learning their rhythms. Bryn was all strength and silence. She spoke in gestures and glances, never wasting words. But when she laughed rare and sudden, it changed her entire face. Kenna was watchful, always scanning the horizon. But at night, by the fire, her guard would drop just enough for him to see the exhaustion underneath. Alara was the bridge between them all. She asked questions, told stories, filled the empty spaces with warmth. And when she looked at him, he felt seen in a way that made him nervous. One night, she sat beside him on the porch. You're different than we expected. How so? Kinder, quieter. Most men would have chased us off by now. He shrugged. Most men aren't desperate for help. She laughed. Then her hand found his. Maybe it's more than that. He didn't pull away. The sky turned black without warning. Jared herded the livestock into shelter while thunder rolled across the fields. Rain came in sheets, violent and cold. He sprinted for the barn, soaked through in seconds. Inside, the three women waited. They'd lit lanterns. The warm glow made shadows dance across the walls. Bryn secured the doors. Kenna checked the horses. Alara stood in the center, water dripping from her hair. Everyone accounted for? Jared nodded, breathless. The storm raged outside. Wind howled through the gaps in the wood. But inside, it felt safe. Almost intimate. Alara moved closer. Her dress clung to her skin, and he forced himself to look away. You cold? He was shivering. She pressed a blanket into his hands. Sit. We'll wait it out together. They huddled near the lantern light. The storm's fury made the world outside feel distant. In here, it was just the four of them. Kenna spoke first. My father used to say storms were the earth's way of washing things clean. Bryn glanced at her. Your father said a lot of things. Kenna's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Alara leaned against Jared's shoulder. It felt natural, like she'd always been there. What do you think, Jared? Does the storm make things clean? He thought about it. About the farm before they came, about the silence and the weight of it. Maybe. Or maybe it just makes room for something new. Alara smiled. I like that answer. The storm passed by morning. Jared woke in the barn, the blankets still wrapped around him. The women were already up, tending to the animals. Sunlight streamed through the cracks, golden and warm. He stood, stretching out the stiffness. Alara turned, catching his eye. Sleep well? Better than I have in a while. She came closer. Too close. He could smell the rain still clinging to her. Jared. Her voice was different. Lower. Intent. Yeah? There's something you should know. His pulse quickened. What? She hesitated. Then Bryn called from outside, and the moment broke. Alara stepped back, her expression unreadable. Later. We need to check the damage. That night, Jared couldn't sleep. He found Alara sitting on the porch, staring out at the fields. The moon was full, painting everything silver. Couldn't sleep either? She patted the spot beside her. Sit. He did. The silence stretched, comfortable but charged. What were you going to tell me? Alara sighed. We're not just passing through. We can't go back. Ever. Why? Because the men who are looking for us won't stop. And if they find us, they'll take us back. Or worse. Jared's chest tightened. What did you do? We ran. From a place that treated us like property. From a man who thought he owned us. Her voice cracked, just slightly. We've been running for months. This is the first place that's felt like we could breathe. He reached for her hand. You're safe here. I won't let anyone take you. She looked at him, tears catching the moonlight. You can't promise that. I can try. She squeezed his hand. Then we'll stay, as long as you'll have us. Something changed after that night. The distance between them evaporated. Meals became longer, filled with laughter and stories. Work felt less like labor and more like partnership. Jared caught himself watching them, the way Bryn's hands moved, the way Kenna's eyes softened when she thought no one was looking, the way Alara smiled just for him. One afternoon, Kenna pulled him aside. You like her. He didn't bother denying it. Is that a problem? Kenna's expression was hard to read. Depends. You going to hurt her? No. Good. Because if you do, I'll make sure you regret it. There was no malice in her voice. Just fact. Understood. She nodded, satisfied, and walked away. Alara found him in the barn that evening. She didn't say anything. Just stood in the doorway, backlit by the setting Sunday. He set down the bucket he was carrying. Alara? She crossed the space between them in 3 strides. Her hands framed his face. Her eyes searched his. Tell me to stop. He couldn't. She kissed him. Slow. Deliberate. Her lips tasted like salt and summer. When she pulled back, his breath came ragged. I've wanted to do that since the first night. His voice was rough. Why didn't you? Because I needed to be sure. Sure you weren't like him. Sure, this was real. He kissed her again. Harder this time. Her hands tangled in his hair, and for the first time in years, he felt alive. They didn't hear the truck until it was too late. Jared pulled away from Alara, his heart pounding. Through the barn door, he saw headlights cutting through the dusk. Alara's face went white. Hide. What? Now. All of you. Bryn and Kenna appeared from nowhere, their expressions grim. They moved like soldiers, efficient and silent. Jared grabbed Alara's arm. Who is it? I don't know. But we can't take the chance. The truck door slammed. Heavy boots crunched on gravel. Jared's jaw set. I'll handle it. Alara's eyes flashed. You don't know what you're dealing with. Then tell me. She hesitated, then nodded. His name is Garrett. He's the one we ran from. And if he finds us, he won't leave without a fight. Jared stepped out of the barn alone. The man standing by the truck was broad-shouldered and cold-eyed. He wore a sheriff's badge, but something about him felt wrong. Help you? The man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Name's Garrett. I'm looking for 3 women. Tall. Might have come through here recently. Jared kept his face neutral. Haven't seen anyone. Garrett's gaze swept the property. Mind if I look around? Actually, I do. This is private land. The smile vanished. I could get a warrant. Then get one. They stared at each other. Jared's pulse roared in his ears, but he didn't blink. Finally, Garrett stepped back. I'll be around. If you see them, you let me know. Sure. The truck pulled away, leaving dust in its wake. Jared waited until it disappeared before he moved. Inside the barn, the women were silent. Alara's hands shook. Kenna paced like a caged animal. Bryn stood rigid, her fists clenched. He'll be back. Jared locked the barn door. I know. Alara turned to him. We should go. Tonight. Before he comes back with others. No. Her eyes widened. Jared, this is your home now. I'm not letting him take that. Kenna stopped pacing. You don't understand. He has resources, Men. He'll tear this place apart to find us. Let him try. Bryn's voice cut through the tension. Why are you doing this? Jared met her gaze. Because it's the right thing to do. Alara's expression softened. You're going to get yourself killed. He reached for her hand. Maybe. But I'm not running. And neither are you. They spent the night preparing. Bryn checked the perimeter, marking weak points. Kenna inventoried supplies, food, water, tools that could double as weapons. Alara sat with Jared, mapping out the property. He'll come at night. That's his style. How many men does he usually bring? 3, maybe 4. Jared nodded, calculating. We have the advantage. We know this land. They don't. Alara's hand covered his. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. She leaned in, pressing her forehead to his. Then we do it together. Morning came quiet. Too quiet. Jared worked the fields with Bryn, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon. She matched his pace, her silence comforting. You're scared. He glanced at her. Yeah, good. Fear keeps you sharp. They worked until noon, then headed back. Kenna had lunch waiting, simple but filling. They ate without speaking, tension thick in the air. Alara sat beside him, her leg pressed against his under the table. Whatever happens tonight, I want you to know. Don't. She stopped. Don't say goodbye. Not yet. She nodded, blinking hard. Garrett came at dusk. 3 trucks this time. 8 men. They spread out across the property, flashlights cutting through the growing dark. Jared stood on the porch, rifle in hand. Behind him, the women waited in the shadows. Garrett stepped forward. Last chance, farmer. Hand them over, and we leave peaceful. They're not going anywhere. Garrett sighed, like he was disappointed. Have it your way. The men moved forward. Jared raised the rifle. Stop right there. Garrett smiled. You really want to die for them? If that's what it takes. For a moment, everything hung suspended. Then Garrett nodded, and the men charged. Chaos erupted. Bryn tackled the first man through the door, her fist connecting with his jaw. He went down hard. Kenna swung a wooden beam, catching another across the chest. Jared fired a warning shot. The men scattered, regrouping. Garrett stayed back, watching with cold amusement. Alara moved to Jared's side, a knife in her hand. Together. The next wave came harder. Jared swung the rifle like a club, feeling bone crack. Alara was a blur of motion, her blade flashing. Bryn and Kenna fought like furies, all power and precision, but there were too many. A man grabbed Alara from behind. She screamed. Jared turned, rage flooding his veins. He slammed the rifle butt into the man's skull. He dropped. Garrett stepped forward, gun drawn. Enough. Everyone froze. Garrett aimed at Jared's chest. Drop the rifle. Jared didn't move. You're trespassing, and you're harboring fugitives. They're not fugitives. They're people. Garrett's expression hardened. They're mine. Alara stepped forward, her voice shaking. We were never yours. Garrett's eyes locked on her. You belong to me. All of you. And you ran. Because you treated us like animals. I treated you better than you deserved. Jared's finger tightened on the trigger. Leave. Now. Or I drop you where you stand. Garrett laughed. You won't. You're not a killer. Try me. The air crackled. Then, from the darkness, a voice called out, Drop the weapon. A sheriff, a real one, stepped into the light. 2 deputies flanked him. Garrett's face went pale. The sheriff handcuffed Garrett. We've been tracking you for months. Kidnapping, assault, human trafficking. Garrett struggled, but the deputies held firm. The sheriff turned to Alara. You're the one who called this in? She nodded. Weeks ago. When we first got here, Jared stared at her. You called the police? I couldn't risk him finding us before they did, so I gave them everything. Evidence, locations, names. The sheriff nodded. She's a brave woman, and you're lucky she trusted you. They led Garrett away. His men were rounded up, cuffed. As the convoy pulled away, silence returned. Jared stood on the porch, watching the dust settle. Alara came to his side. Are you angry? That you didn't tell me? Or that you risked everything? Both. He turned to her, taking her hands. I'm grateful. You saved us all. She exhaled, relief flooding her face. I thought you'd hate me for lying. You were protecting yourself. I understand that. Bryn and Kenna joined them, their expressions weary but relieved. It's really over? Alara nodded. It's over. Kenna sank onto the steps, head in her hands. Bryn put an arm around her. For the first time, Jared saw them not as warriors, but as survivors. The days that followed were quiet. They repaired what was broken, fixed the damage from the fight. Slowly, the tension eased. Jared found Bryn in the barn one morning, mucking stalls. You don't have to do that anymore. You're free. She looked up, surprised. What else would I do? Whatever you want. She was quiet for a long moment. This is what I want. For now. He nodded, understanding. Alara asked him the question one evening. What happens now? They sat by the fire, her head on his shoulder. What do you mean? We're free. We could go anywhere. But we're still here. Do you want to leave? She turned to look at him. No. But I need to know if you want us to stay. He cupped her face. I want you to stay. All of you. For as long as you'll have me. She kissed him, slow and deep. Then we stay. Autumn arrived in a blaze of color. The farm thrived. Harvest was plentiful. The work was hard, but it felt purposeful. Jared woke each morning, surrounded by laughter and warmth. Kenna started singing while she worked. Bryn's smiles came easier. Alara moved through the house like she'd always belonged. One night, they sat around the table, and Jared realized he couldn't remember what silence felt like. Alara caught him staring. What? Nothing. Just happy. She squeezed his hand. Me too. Winter came early that year. Snow blanketed the fields, turning everything quiet and white. They spent the evenings by the fire, telling stories and making plans. One night, Jared pulled Alara aside. Come with me. He led her to the barn. Lantern light glowed through the cracks. Inside, he'd set up a table. Candles. What's this? I wanted to ask you something. Her eyes widened. He took her hands. I know we haven't been together long. And I know this life isn't easy. But I can't imagine it without you. He pulled out a simple ring. Silver, worn smooth. It was my grandmother's. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face. Yes. God, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and she kissed him like the world was ending. They married in spring. It was small. Just the four of them and a traveling preacher. Kenna and Bryn stood witness, their faces bright with joy. Alara wore a simple dress. Jared wore his cleanest shirt. It was perfect. After, they danced in the barn, the doors flung wide to let in the sunlight. Kenna played fiddle. Bryn clapped along. Alara laughed until she cried. Jared held her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. I love you. She looked up at him. I love you too, more than I thought possible. Summer brought new challenges. Alara's hands shook as she told him. I'm pregnant. Jared's world tilted. You're? I'm going to have a baby. Our baby. He pulled her into his arms, overwhelmed. We're going to be parents. She laughed, crying at the same time. Are you ready for this? No. But I'll figure it out. With you. They turned the upstairs room into a nursery. Bryn built a crib. Kenna sewed blankets. Jared painted the walls a soft yellow. Alara watched from the doorway, one hand on her growing belly. You're all going to spoil this baby. Kenna grinned. That's the plan. The baby came in the middle of the night. Jared paced while the midwife worked. Bryn held Alara's hand. Kenna boiled water and fetched towels. When the baby finally cried, Jared's knees went weak. The midwife handed him a tiny, squirming bundle. It's a girl. He stared down at the red, scrunched face. His daughter. Alara reached for her, exhausted but radiant. She's perfect. What do we name her? Alara smiled. Hope. Her name is Hope. Hope grew like a weed. She had Alara's eyes and Jared's stubborn chin. Bryn taught her to walk. Kenna sang her to sleep. Alara raised her with fierce love. Jared watched his daughter toddle through the fields, and his heart swelled. This was family. This was home. 5 years later, a woman arrived at the farm. She was tall, dark-haired, and wore a look of desperation. "Please, I need help." Alara recognized the look, the fear, the exhaustion. She opened the door. "Come in. You're safe here." Jared watched from the porch as Alara welcomed another lost soul. He smiled. This was who they were now. Survivors helping survivors. They converted the old bunkhouse into a shelter. Women came. Some stayed a few days. Some stayed months. All of them left stronger than they arrived. Bryn managed the farm. Kenna taught self-defense. Alara offered counsel. Jared provided safety. Hope grew up surrounded by strong women. She learned early that the world could be cruel, but also kind. Years passed. The farm became known as a place of refuge, a place where the lost could find themselves again. Jared and Alara grew old together, their love deepening with time. Bryn and Kenna stayed, choosing family over solitude. Hope followed in their footsteps, fierce and compassionate. Jared sat on the porch, watching the sun set over fields he knew by heart. Alara sat beside him, her hand in his. "Do you ever regret it? Opening that barn door?" He smiled. Not for a second. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Me neither." Hope brought home her own lost soul, a man, broken and scared. Jared saw himself in those eyes. He can stay. As long as he needs. Hope hugged him. "Thank you, Dad." The circle continued. Bryn passed first, peacefully, in her sleep, surrounded by family. They buried her under the oak tree, where she'd loved to sit. Kenna followed 2 years later. The farm felt smaller without them, but their legacy remained. Jared's hands trembled as he worked the fields. He was old now, tired, but content. Alara still walked beside him, slower but no less present. "Do you remember that first night?" He smiled. "Every detail. You saved us." "No. We saved each other." Alara died in spring. Jared held her hand as she slipped away, her face peaceful. "I'll see you soon." She smiled. "Not too soon. You still have work to do." He kissed her forehead, and she was gone. Jared lived another year alone. Hope visited often, bringing grandchildren. But the farm felt empty without Alara. He spent his evenings on the porch, remembering. Grateful. Jared died on a summer evening. Hope found him on the porch, a smile on his face. As they laid him to rest beside Alara, a storm rolled in. Rain washed the fields clean, and somewhere 3 women stood in an empty barn, waiting for the next lost soul to open the door.